my next guest, and I don't say this about everybody, but he honestly is one of my favorite people in the whole world. And I don't get to see him at all physically in person ever. But his energy, his joie de vivre, his demeanor, his attitude, the way he presents himself, and the authenticity with which he does it is so beautiful and so attractive that I want to be near him in any way that I can. So my next guest is Conor Murphy, and Conor has a phenomenal background. So from the disciplined decks of the Navy to the adrenaline pumping arenas of CrossFit, Conor's journey embodies resilience, transformation, and passion. Transitioning from Navy veteran to a formidable CrossFit athlete and then a dedicated coach, he has used CrossFit as a tool to uplift lives across continents. His clientele, an impressive mix of professional athletes and celebrities, is a testament to his expertise and his beautiful, magical nature. But Conor's philosophy transcends just physical fitness. He believes in a life of balance, where health is celebrated with as much fervor as it is pursued. Because in Conor's words, what is your health if you can't celebrate it? Welcome, Conor.
Thank you. That was by far the most exquisite introduction I've ever had in my life. I was just smiling the whole time. I don't even know if I heard half of it. I was blushing. I was smiling. Thank you so much. You always have that
Oh,
effect on me. So thank you.
oh, it's the truth, It's you are one of those people that I've seen people just gravitate towards because you embody just the beauty of life, right? It's like if we could bottle your essence, like I would, if I could bottle your essence, I would be a billionaire. But anyway, so let's move on to the actual interview. What is your definition of health in an effort to understand how to celebrate it?
Well, beforehand and before starting CrossFit, I had no definition of health, just as no one did. And so it really when I learned at the CrossFit level 1, from Greg Glassman, not he wasn't teaching my level 1, but from his words is that your work capacity across broad time and modal domains throughout the years of your life is your health. But simplifying that, it's like your work capacity, your ability to perform a task, whether that be A or B or C and any different modality over long and over short time frames. So it's like your ability to do work throughout the years of your life speaks to your health. And that made sense to me because it has that objective nature when we talk about what is fitness, which is the same thing just throughout the years of your life, that snapshot in time of what you're capable of. It's like, wow, that does make sense because I want to be able to run. I want to be able to deadlift. I want to be able to do all of these things. And that was just such a surface level way for me to think about it and understand it. But it was imperative to be able to kind of comprehend what I know now about how to utilize fitness and utilize health to create a better quality of life. It's not just that you have access to it. That's what health is having access to a higher quality of life. But how to celebrate it and how to tap into that access is really where I think these worlds kind of collide.
I love that. Okay, can we expand further on how to tap into that? Because I think you're the master of this, not in just for yourself, but in teaching others how to do it as well.
Um, so I think about life in general, and I think that a lot of people are very, very comfortable in their ways. And I think by having a lot of fitness, what it does is it gives you this access, and not a lot of people do this. I'm not saying that everyone does this, but it gives you this access to be capable of doing things that are outside of your comfort zone that don't have to do with fitness. When it has to do with someone saying, "Hey, we're going to go salsa dancing tonight." And some people will be like, "Oh, not for me." And it doesn't matter exactly how fit you are. However, having health and having fitness in your back pocket, it's going to make it's going to lower that barrier to entry. Now, granted, your own, mentality of it of being like, I don't want to look like a fool is one thing, but now imagine it without fitness. And it's like, well, I can't move my feet like that. I can't stand for that long. And the saddest part is that there's so many people in our society that aren't even able to unlock it if they wanted to. But now we talk about more so, hey, we have a lot of people that have been doing CrossFit, or there's millions of CrossFitters, and they've achieved or they've achieved fitness. I wish you could do that. I wish it was like, oh, check the box, like I'm fit now. Um, but that they get so comfortable in, I just want to garner fitness. And I think that the quality of life starts to go down because they aren't expanding. They aren't, excited to try new things that their fitness allows them to be capable of, whether it be going out salsa dancing, learning a new language, approaching someone you've never approached before, trying out a new sport, doing all of these different things, which improve the quality of your life. I was just talking with a good friend of mine the other day, and he's from the inner city of Baltimore, and he was talking about, he's like, if he were to go back home with his friends that he grew up with and tell them some of the things that he has done, it's like it would absolutely blow their minds. Whether we're talking about jumping out of airplanes, eating, he was talking about eating crocodile. It's like trying something new and doing all these things and having fitness, but really celebrating it and then utilizing that to improve the quality of your life. And it, maybe I don't have a direct like a causal mechanism. We kind of talk about that black box theory. And in that black box theory is that if you have fitness and then you just try new things and you try things that you're going to suck at, you try things that you might be good at, but you try new experiences. I don't know what that mechanism is, but the outcome is a better quality of life. You're going to be happier, you're going to be healthier, you're going to enjoy the bits of life more, your relationships, everything, if you are expanding and celebrating your fitness rather than just garnering as much of it as possible. It's in that black box where it's like that magic happens, where there's that input and output.
Oh, I love this so much. I love this because often we see, fitness and working out as this isolated event that we have to do, and we don't realize the benefits that it has and how it allows us, as you say, to celebrate life. I want to come back to how it all started for you. We were talking about your level one, the CrossFit level one, and that it was more than just a certificate yesterday. And I was wondering if you could just like go into that a bit, and then also the what Greg Glassman told you about coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll kind of start from the very beginning of the journey, and I'll always give credit where credit is due. It started off, there was a guy, his name was Billy Burnett, and we were going through uh, training together. He was a prior Army Ranger that was going through the Buds Prep program. And he was one of the more intense guys I've ever met. And he did a lot of jujitsu and he did a lot of CrossFit. And he was like, Conor, and he always had these like big whites in his eyes. He's like, bro, you got to try this. This is CrossFit. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And the workout had like ring dips and pistols in it. I knew nothing about movement, but for some reason, which I found out later, I have very, very flexible ankles. And so I was able to perform these pistols. And he's like, bro, he's like, none of these people can do that. And he got me all into into the CrossFit world. And I remember I wanted more training outside of what we were doing because I felt like I was a little bit behind physically. And one of my instructors, still one of my best friends to today, his name's James McKinney, call him Jimbo McKinney. He was like, hey, a lot of this stuff is we're pulling these workouts from CrossFit.com. And so that was kind of my initial exposure to it. And I remember hearing about the CrossFit Games. And this is in 2007, I think, when I was going through training, 2007 or 2008. And then the movie, and I was all into CrossFit. And the movie Every Second Counts came out, and they had a premiere of it in Pasadena, California. And my parents were down visiting, and I had an aunt that lived there. I'm like, we're gonna go to this. I gotta have you gotta see this thing. I was fully obsessed with it. I mean, I remember on CrossFit.com, they would post like quotes every 3 days. They would just like, it would just be a quote, and it could be relevant to fitness, but more so it was just important things. And I would just like copy and paste those things onto my Facebook. Anything that came on that page, I was like, I'm all in there because I saw the difference that it made in my life. I saw the
Yeah.
improvement in fitness. I saw the improvement in intelligence. And when I found someone else that was training, and in the camaraderie and the shared suffering, it was incredible. So we went and we saw Every Second Counts. And I remember seeing Josh Everett. And I was like, that's the guy. That's my guy. He's the one that, I wanted to win the games this year. And, there's all this stuff because it was the year that he finished second place. And it was just such a unique thing that I ended up getting my parents into. And so we loved it. And after an injury in the Navy stopped me from continuing in my job field, I was a little bit worried about what I was going to do. And so I probably wasn't in the best headspace. I was still training. I would still go to like CrossFit PB, which was like the first affiliate down in CrossFit in Pacific Beach. And I would hang out with Brian and Anders there who opened up that gym. And but I was going out, I was drinking a lot, and it was like, and I was having fun, but and I had this like paycheck that came into the Navy, and I realized I was like, all right, I need to find something that I can do. I need to find a new job career. And the only thing that I love more than or as much as Navy special warfare is doing CrossFit. So I had actually sold my car. I sold my Nissan 350Z, and for some reason, I actually got a Navy federal loan for it, but they sent the title to me for some reason. And there was like a mix up in there when I shouldn't have had the title. So I ended up selling this car. So I sold it for more than I owed on it. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep making these payments and use this. So I used that money to purchase the $1,000 CrossFit Level 1 certificate course, money that technically wasn't mine. It belonged to the bank. But, I digress. And I remember going to the course in Murrieta, California, CrossFit by Overload. And you couldn't have had me more attentive. I was so captivated by everything that the trainers were saying, that everything that the other participants were doing, how their experience, their exposure to CrossFit. I remember, I remember meeting Zach Forrest, who was previously in the SEAL teams, and it was like, you know, catching up with him, and then Chris Spieler, who was like the legend in CrossFit, and then Josh Everett was there, who was like my idol, and there was so many just like unique things. And Eric Pressman was a flow master. Nadia was there as well. And it was at the time when you finish taking the test, you kind of sit there for 30 minutes. They grade your test, and then you come back out, and everyone's names are on a manila envelope or a manila folder. And you open it up, and you either have a level 1 certificate, or you open it up and you have a participation certificate, I mean you did not pass the test. And I remember grabbing that, and I didn't want to look at it. And I actually remember because Kristen Clever went there to like work out with people at lunch. Dave Castro showed up day 2. So, I'm just in like heaven, but I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone know if I failed this test or not. So I went out and I sat in my buddy's E30 BMW that I was driving because I was sold my car. So it's like this old school BMW. And I like sat down in there, and I remember opening it up, and I saw the level 1 certificate, and I was like, and it hit me at that moment. And even though it is the introductory course, it is the kernel, as Coach Glassman says. I saw that piece of paper, and I thought, this is something that I can do, and I can do well, and I can do it for the rest of my life. And from there, I kind of made a promise to myself. I said, every year I want to look back on the year prior and be like, there's no way I would have ever seen myself in this position. And it wasn't, and I think through that, and I think through my own character development, it came from the appreciation and care that I got from other trainers. I had done the ACE, American Council of Exercise, the CSCS. I'd done a lot of these like personal training courses. It just didn't really speak to me. CrossFit was the first one that was like, hey, this is an introduction. Here's how you can relate to people. Here's how you can do all of these things. Here's how you can do, I want to teach you how to coach. We'll teach you how to do each piece of it. And then go on. Go on and do this and hone in your skills. And then we have more for you when you're ready. And there's continuing education. There's a free CrossFit journal that has some of the smartest and most intelligent people in the world in strength and conditioning. And they're writing articles in here because we want you to be the best trainer. And to answer a part of your question as well, and something that has stuck with me and been really the reason why I feel like I've seen any success is pairing the CrossFit Level 1 certificate course with Coach Glassman's answer to the question, what are the 3 things that you can tell someone to be an effective trainer or to be a good trainer? And his answers to that were care, care, and care. Because if you
Oh,
if you care about your craft, if you care about other people, they're going to be able to feel that. If you
yeah.
care about your craft and you care about your clients, you're going to take the time to learn the things that you don't know and to make sure you're giving them everything that you've got. And then if you care about, your craft and you care about your clients, you're going to, you're going to do the things that go above and beyond so that they can get their results. Because the results that I saw from simple as it is, as silly as it sounds, from constantly varied functional movement executed at high intensity. And right, that's great. And that's going to get you a lot of places. And then you add this community building block in there. you add shared suffering and other people that you're meeting that are willing to go the distance with you. And it's like, those are people that I want in my life. I don't care what they do for work, but if they're willing to put in that kind of effort, those are the people that I want to be around. And then it's like,
Yeah.
hey, there's another coaching component to it. Now you can actually help other people. Now that great feeling that you have, that maybe even life-saving or life-changing thing that happened from CrossFit, now you have the gift of helping other people with that. And I've always been a very selfish person. I've always been a selfish person. I'm willing to admit that I understand that, probably sometimes to a fault. However, finding coaching and training is that when I can get and I can help someone achieve something that they weren't able to achieve or never thought possible, what I get from that is probably as much, if not more, than what they're receiving from it. So I get this kind of like selfish feedback as well as I'm helping people. And that feeling is absolutely addicting. So we talk about from the level one, I wanted to learn more. And if I would have gone to college, like I have 0 college credits. I have never done a single thing in exercise science, let alone exercise science in anything in college. I enlisted in the Navy out of high school, but once that seed was planted, once that kernel was planted, I couldn't get more information. I was reading collegiate level, collegiate textbooks of anatomy and physiology to learn and understand things that I didn't know. And it was information that I was retaining because I cared about it so much. And the same thing applies when I went to take the level 3, the certification. I would watch 1 video a day from CrossFit Journal, and I would read 1 article, and I would take what I really learned from that, maybe 1 or 2 things, and I would apply it into the class that I was teaching. So I'd apply it, and even if it was nutrition stuff and it had nothing to do, we'd have, like, a little chalk talk, afterwards, a little 10-minute cool down period, and be like, "Hey, here's something that I was reading, and I don't know if you guys knew this," and you talk about it and you apply it to your classes, because I didn't wanna just pass the test. I wanted to be a certified CrossFit trainer. I wanted to have that knowledge in order to help improve the quality of life of other people. And when it's hard talking about success for me because I feel that I still don't feel like I'm like, "Oh, I'm successful in this," or there's like, it's the same thing as like fitness, right? You're like, sure, people can look at me and be like, "That person's fit." And it's like, "Yeah, but the box isn't checked." So it's like, yeah, you could be on a successful route, but what I realized in one, the promise that I made to myself for every year, I want to look back and be just amazed and not believe. Like a year ago, I wouldn't believe where I am today, what we're doing. And, it sounds, mm, I don't know if it sounds conceited or it sounds maybe misguided, but, that gets to a point when you are training some of your favorite artists or professional athletes and you're flying on private jets with these people and you're looking around and I still don't feel like I fit in. I still don't. I look around and I've been around people whose each one of their net worths is more than I can even fathom. And I look around and I'm like, I'm not like these people. I don't have that kind of drive. I don't have that kind of intelligence to do what they're doing in their realm. And so I'm sitting there and it's like, there could be 8 or 9 people. However, what I learned at that CrossFit level 1, and not just the knowledge of the 9 foundational movements, how to correct, movement, the points performance, but I learned that component of care. And what I learned is that it doesn't matter what your net worth is. It doesn't matter what you do for work. It doesn't matter how famous you are. The quality of your life can be improved through fitness. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, you cannot purchase health. You cannot purchase fitness and be like, I'm going to spend money. And I've seen people try to do it. I've seen every shortcut and every amount of money spent on different pills and pills that are going to lower your, blood pressure, but then in statins and this and that. And it's like people want to spend that. However, you can be someone like me, doesn't have a lot to offer, doesn't have a lot to give, with the exception of care and knowledge of craft in CrossFit and training. And that is something that is invaluable and that they can't find. They can't purchase online. They can't purchase at a store. So even though I could be on, and it sounds, odd, and I don't want this to be like a drawback. I train everyone. Most of the people I train are anyone who wants to train. But when you have access to those type of people, I don't feel like I'm a part of it, with the exception of there's one thing that I have that none of them have, and that is the ability to understand movement and training, and I can improve the quality of every single one of their lives for a price that's significantly cheaper than any of the fake ways that aren't going to do it anyways. And it all stemmed from that level 1 certificate course. It really, really did. I'm not just saying that because now I've gotten on the training team. I get to work seminars with those heroes and mentors of mine that were not only on my level 1 staff, but were on the staff in general, the people who taught my level 2. I get to work with them and do things with them. It's like all of that was because of the care component. And one thing I think we talked about yesterday, and it really speaks to the testament of the quality of trainers in the CrossFit level 1, level 2 training team, is I remember in 2010, it was January, I asked Chris Spieler, I was like, "Hey man, I just finished, we didn't even take the test yet." And I was like, "Hey, I think I'd want to do your job one day. What do I have to do that?" And his response should have been, you know, "Why don't you try to pass this level 1 test, you pipsqueak, and then figure it out from there." But that wasn't his response. His response was, "Be involved in CrossFit, be involved with the community, volunteer to help in any way you can, make a name for yourself as caring about CrossFit. Study your craft, do the courses, and once you feel ready, then send up an application to apply for seminar staff." And this is someone he didn't know. This is someone who, it wasn't like I was like an incredible athlete. I hadn't competed at all. I was just some guy. I was just some kid who was so into CrossFit. And now I get that opportunity to give that back to people that ask me the same question. And they're still in the back of my head where you're like, "Hey man, like I saw like, why don't you worry about being able to see a movement fault here?" But it's like, no, here's the path that got me there. And it is that care component that comes down from the top, and it can take you to places that you would never dream of, and it can take you to places that you could, well, I mean, only dream of, and take you to places to be able to do things and be regarded and be wanted by people that you would normally have no affiliation with. And it's been the most incredible thing in my life, and that's on top of everything that happened in the Navy and all of that. Like it is my calling, and it is what makes me happy and able to celebrate everything that I can with fitness and health.
Oh, you are so inspiring. And you are very humble as well. I remember the first time I met you, I was like, "So who's coming to dinner?" And they were like, this, and then they were like, "And Conor Murphy, and he is one of the best CrossFit trainers in the world."
You must have been
So
talking to the wrong people. Then they must have thought it was someone else.
shush, stop. Well, Connor, that was an absolutely incredible interview. I'm so grateful that you are a part of Revita Fest and that you were willing to come and share your knowledge with us. So thank you. Do you have anything that you want to say in closing?
I do, and I want to make this more relative rather than just me telling my story. The reason why I state it like that is because I know there's people out there, and I've had people ask me, "Hey, how do you get to be a celebrity trainer? How do you get to do this stuff? Like what makes you comfortable charging this rate? Why do these people want to train with you?" And it's not just a straight answer, but it is starting. It is starting and having a dream and pursuing excellence. It is chasing and honing in on your knowledge of craft and everything that they're going to teach you at the level 1, in the level 2, the level 3 test, in the trainer manual. Go back and read the original articles from Glassman in the CrossFit Journal. And you're like, this stuff, if you just do that, like your wildest dreams as a trainer, stuff that I never even imagined happening, going with an artist headlining Coachella, being backstage in an artist pass and being like, this person has to be there with me. And I'm like, all I do is make sure his knees are driving out and his chest is up in his squat. Like, but he's seen the same, these people have seen the same results that I've seen from that. And I'm just so unbelievably grateful um, for those opportunities. And also it comes down to you sometimes have to put yourself out there for free. There's
Yeah.
sometimes people where I had an opportunity where I'm training someone and there's another person in the area. It's like, "Hey, do you want to hop in this workout?" And I'm not like, "Oh, here's my Venmo. Make sure you're paying me for this." Like, "Oh, no, awesome." And then all of a sudden, you're giving someone something they can't get anywhere else, and it's almost like an addiction, right? You give 'em a little dose of CrossFit, be like, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, have fun. Awesome. Very nice meeting you. Fantastic." And they're like, This person just gave me an incredible product. They wanted nothing from me. They didn't want to take pictures. They didn't want to do any of the other stuff where like everyone's like, yeah, that's something that artists or like a lot of celebrities will do, and it's interesting because people are like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" And they'll be like, "Yep," and they'll take a picture, and they'll be like, "Thanks," and they'll go away, and they'll take a picture on, post it online, and say, "I met, Lauv." And when you talk to them about it, it's like it's kind of interesting because it's like they just want to take a picture for themselves. Like, do people really want to know who I am? And you'd be amazed at the mental state of a lot of people that are famous. I think fame, we've talked about this before too. Fame is the most addicting drug there is. And if you don't know who you are before you get it, it is very, very difficult to figure it out because everything you do is based on how other people like your music, like your artwork, like any of this stuff. And so getting to know these people and the training world is such a simple way to do that because you can provide a product for them that is genuine. It's not taking anything from them. It's not like, hey, give this like, this little like ab jiggle machine, you're gonna lose weight. It's like, no, here's hard work. You're gonna
Yeah.
feel the best you felt afterwards. And you shake their hand afterwards, and you're like, I'm glad you enjoyed that. And the next day you're gonna get a DM from someone and it's like, hey, this was the best I've ever felt. I want to do this again. You're like, cool, when? Cool. Can I fly you out here? Yeah, sure. There were times when I was like, I was so giddy to meet some of these people and to train some of these people. And it's like, I had to do my work. I had to have everything planned, prepped, every class, every movement, every scenario of where we were going to train and all of that. And I had that, but it was just playing it off as, oh, I just do this all the time. And at the end of it, it's like, oh, did I want to take pictures and be like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite song? Yeah, I wanted to do that. But you just stay in your lane and you know, hey, what I have here is special, and you can give it to someone that seemingly needs nothing. Everyone in the world needs one thing, and that is their health. And if it's to live another day, or if it's to have the same energy where you see these artists that are, jumping up and down on stage, that are singing, that are moving around and doing all this stuff. It's like they're more celebration than fitness, where I think a lot of my friends have more fitness than celebration. But in that
Yeah.
time, both are necessary for just an incredible quality of life. And and if you have anywhere to start, I'd recommend taking that level one, take the same journey I did. And I'm always available. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Instagram. We can attach my email to this any way that I can help, because there's been a lot of people who have stuck their necks out for me to help me get to where I am today. And I'm so unbelievably grateful.
Oh, well, ending on that note is so inspiring. Thank you, Connor. You are the absolute best.
Thank you. I feel incredibly honored in seeing a lot of the people that are speaking on this. It's really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing it holistically and just really happy to be a small part of it. So I really appreciate you having me on here.